Good morning, Inklings. I'm Bianca and welcome back to my channel. I'd like to begin by showing respect to and acknowledging the Whadjuk Noongar people, elders past and present, the traditional owners and custodians of the land I'm filming this video on today. So today I'm going to be uploading a extremely late April TBR. I totally lost track of time, which is also kind of why I'm sitting in this spot. We've been moving things around in the room where my bookshelves are, and this chair was in my room, but now it's over here so I can actually sit on it. The spot where it was really awkward, so it wasn't fun sitting there, but now I have open space and I can actually film here. I'm also planning to put a little shelf back here where I can have some of my pretty mugs and some pretty books as well, hopefully. So fingers crossed that works out. And yeah, anyway, let's get into the TBR. I don't want to keep you waiting forever. First of all, my book club books that I have to read. Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare. So this is for the Parabatai book club where we are reading all of the Shadowhunters books, all of Cassie Clare's books set in this world. So this is the first book in the Infernal Devices trilogy, which is a prequel to the Mortal Instruments series, which we just read the first 3 of in the first 3 months of the year. So this month we're going back in time to the Infernal Devices, and I'm very excited to read this book with fresh eyes because the first time I read it I wasn't a fan and I got pretty bored, and the second time I managed to make it through to the end of the trilogy, and the ending and reading it in publication order made me love these characters. So I'm really looking forward to going back to this with the mindset that I have now and seeing how I feel about these books this time around. Then I'm also participating and co-hosting the Redbird Read Along. So in this we are reading the entire House of Night series, and we are starting this month, so you can join us at any time, but this month we are doing the first book, Marked, by PC and Kirsten Cast. So if you like vampires, if you like vampires who go to school, like the Vampire Academy, this is a book that you need to try. Then, as you probably saw, I have my copy of Chain of Iron. This is again a Shadowhunters book. This is the sequel to the Infernal Devices trilogy, so how I'm reading it right now is in a really funky order, but I loved the first book in the Lost Hours trilogy, Chain of Gold, so I'm hoping that I'm going to be loving this book just as much or even more. And Leia and I are going to be buddy reading this, so I have to read it this month. And I'll probably end up reading this one before I read Clockwork Angel. But very, very excited to have this. And this edition is stunning. Okay, those are the 3 books that I have to read this month, so I will be okay if I only read those 3 books because it's pretty much chaos. And I am also reading a few other books that I'm reading for my goals. So I do have goals to read non-fiction, arcs, classics, and books in French and Afrikaans. So I am in the middle of a few, namely Atomic Habits, which is non-fiction, and I am loving this book. I am still reading Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Whenever I finish that, I can finally tick off another classic. Then I am reading The Ongelooflijke Avonturen van Hannah Hukum, which is an Afrikaans book that I read in school, and I'm loving reading it again. It just takes me a lot longer to read Afrikaans books. And then a couple of arcs. I need to read the second Maylie book. I read Maylie in the Maze a while ago and it was really cute middle grade, so the author has kindly provided me the second book as well, so I'll be reading that one. And I'm also reading The Girl with a Whispering Shadow, which is also a sequel. So all of those books I need to get to as well. A few things that I did want to mention: it is Autism Awareness / Acceptance / Pride Month this month, and the Auti Readathon is happening again. I participated last year and I had an amazing time. I do want to participate again this year, but I will probably read less books. I read a lot last year and I tried to do the entire bingo board, but this year I do not have the time, so I think I might just try to do 1 row or just read some books that I've really been wanting to get to, which are, first of all, Aspergerworld, My Fairy Jam Jar by Jolie Colmer. So this is a non-fiction book about a woman's experience with her autism,
and I think this came out when Asperger's was still a diagnosis, but now the language has changed and Asperger's is now known as autism spectrum disorder, or ASD. And I've owned this book for a long time, and I bought it back when I wasn't actually reading that much, so hopefully this will be the year when I read this book. Then I recently learned that Talia Hibbert is autistic, and one of the books in the Brown Sisters trilogy, I think the latest one, Eve Brown, is autistic, so I am going to try read that trilogy. It is adult romance, and I've been wanting to read it for a while. I did mention the books, I think, in my February TBR, but I did not get to them. That just makes me so happy knowing that another romance author is autistic, because of how much I loved The Kiss Quotient and The Bride Test. They were so good. I had an amazing time reading them. So yeah, very excited for those. Then 2 books that I don't currently have my hands on, but I might order them or get them on Kindle, and that is Please Don't Hug Me, which is set in Australia, and I'm really confused about what it says on the blurb, so hopefully when I read it I'll find out more about Australia, so that would be a plus. And then A Kind of Spark by E. McNichol. I've heard really amazing things about this middle grade, and the cover is stunning, and I just really want to read it. I've been wanting to read it for a really long time, so I think this might be the month. Okay, so there are so many other books by autistic authors that I do want to read as well, and about autistic characters. I do have a shelf on my Goodreads called Aspies and Auties, where I do add books that I find out about that have autistic rep or are by autistic characters. So if you do want to see more of that, I will leave a link to that shelf down below. So it is also Ramadan this month, and I have been wanting to read a few books by Muslim authors that I'm going to try prioritize this month. The first one is Once Upon an Eid, which is a collection of short stories, and I believe it's a middle grade. I've been waiting for Ramadan and Eid to come around again before I read this book, and the book looks really great, and I'm really looking forward to reading it. Then Amal Unbound. This was a pick for the Homebody book club, and I have not read it yet, so hopefully I can get to it this month, and I'm not too sure what this book is about. And then I really want to try read some of S.K. Ali's books. So the first one that I really want to get to is Love from A to Z. This just looks like super cute young adult romance, and possibly Saints and Misfits. If I do have the time this month, I'd like to get to that one as well. There are so many other amazing books by Muslim authors that I have read and that I still want to read. Then lastly, the Shadow and Bone Netflix show is coming out in April, and I have never read any of the Grishaverse books, so I'm going to try start with Shadow and Bone, that trilogy, and then possibly the other 2, Six of Crows, and then I think the last one in that world is King of Scars. So going to just try start them, because I know if I don't start them before I watch the show, then I will never finish reading these books. That is my April TBR. It's very late, I know, and I'm very sorry about that. The time slipped away from me and I got very busy. And if you have read any of these books, or if you are reading any books for Autism Acceptance Month or for Ramadan, please let me know down below what you're reading. I'd love to add some more books to my lists to read in future. Thank you so much for watching. Keep thinking, Inklings. I'll see you next time. Bye!